they kind of get what's going on. They understand that people are sick, but they feel invincible, right? They're like, oh, it's not going to bother me.
Yeah.
It's not going to come near me.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard for them. Again, they're like, well, hey, no school, I can go see my friends. And it's like, well, actually you can't. And here's why. And actually you're not invincible.
So for the past few weeks, things have been a whirlwind, to say the least. Social isolation, trying to find toilet paper, and that looming sense of uncertainty can be tough for anyone. But for Hannah and her family, things have been simultaneously turned completely upside down, while also not changing at all.
So in some ways it's weird because life hasn't changed. Both my husband and I, we work from home. So we worked from home before. We're still working from home now. Except that I went out a lot more to, we're going to and fro from school, dropping kids off, picking kids up, taking them to activities, things like that. Going out, networking, hanging out with people, fellowshipping, doing all the things like that. But now a lot of that's been culled back. And so working from home has just gotten a lot more intense, a lot more, of course, online, social media, and all those kinds of things. So.
I know. As someone who works from home a lot, it's super nice to be able to leave work and leave your office behind. But now it's like, it's all the same thing and you can't even go out anymore. Correct. So what are you doing to stay sane?
Okay, that's a really great question. I'm trying to find different spaces in my home where I can be like, okay, this is the workspace. In this area, I am working. But when I'm over here, I'm not working because you're right. Like if I'm only going to be inside these four walls for the next Lord knows how long, then I've got to create little pockets of space that I can have that are compartmentalized in my brain and even compartmentalized within the house. And then just trying to get outside for a walk every day at the very least, right? Get some fresh air.
Oddly enough, I've spent more time outdoors exercising, going to like the state park or something like that because I just need to get out and breathe again.
Yes. Being near green things and getting that oxygen from them and all of that. So going out for walks, just even stopping and taking some deep breaths, pausing, drinking water. I think trying to be more mindful about those little things that are going to help me feel good in my space. Those are some of the steps I've been taking.
So for Hannah, things seem to be okay. Her work from home, her lifestyle isn't too interrupted. That is until school gets canceled and the kids come home. And while most schools are closing around the nation, there's been this unprecedented amount of instability. Kids bring home their anxieties, their fears, and their endless energy. As a parental figure in their lives, what's one of the concerns or fears that you have for them?
Ooh, concerns or fears.
Or are there none? Maybe there's none.
I don't know if I have any. In some ways, it's hard with kids because they can't really grasp the full gravity of the situation, right? So I was talking about this with my sister. She has one 4-year-old and two almost 3-year-olds, and her kids are just acting out. They're really frustrated. They don't understand why their routine has been broken up. They don't understand why they can't go to school right now. They're just like, I want to do what we normally do. So they have been kind of lashing out, and that's been a struggle. But for my kids who are older, especially I have an 18 and a 17-year-old, but I have a 12 and 11-year-old, they kind of get what's going on. They understand that people are sick, but they feel invincible, right? They're like, oh, it's not going to bother me. It's not going to come near me. And I think if I have a concern, my only concern is that they are just still mindful of the situation, aware. I think it's hard for them. Again, they're like, well, hey, no school, I can go see my friends. And it's like, well, actually you can't. And here's why. And actually you're not invincible. In fact, you could potentially still be in that vulnerable population. So I think just helping them understand is a challenge, I would say.
It's so interesting because I'm imagining as a parent, I'm going to be concerned over my kids. Like, I want to make sure that they're aware, that they're educated, that they're not like taking things for granted. And yet, as you're sharing this story with me, like one of the first things that comes to my mind is Jesus' statement about we need to become like children.
Yes.
And I'm curious if that's come to life in a new way given the last couple of weeks.
Yes. It's funny that you said that because I was in the Secret Place book this past week, and that very
Secrets of the Secret Place, in case anyone wants to read that.
Yes, Secrets of the Secret Place, amazing book. I was in that book though, and they were talking about that, just that crying out to God, that innate trust, that leaning into what's safe, which is your parental figures, your home. that has come out a little bit more for me of just like, I need to just have that baseline level of trust and just lean in. And when it gets rocky, which it has been, just cry out to my Father and know that he hears me. And just like the way that a parent runs when their kid cries out, that he has that same reaction to me, that he is hearing my cry and coming and meeting me. Yeah, that's definitely been very present in my mind.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you found that trust is, I don't know if this is the right word, but is that trust coming easy for you in this season?
Oh gosh. So it depends on the day. If you had asked me on Tuesday, I would have said absolutely not. Just because, every day, every day, hour by hour, sometimes the situation has been unfolding, right? And then you have to pivot and do something different. And so on Monday, I was like, yes, this is okay. I feel so great. I was having church with my sister and we were just like in it to win it. And then the very next day on Tuesday, the Lord was like, okay, here's this thing. I'm going to put this on pause for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what's your response? And, my response was tears, but also going back to the secret place and pressing in. And as I shared some of my heartache with my friends and my family, I think they were like, well, God is sovereign and God's got this. And I was like, I know that he's got it. And I don't feel like my questions or my doubts or my tears right now negate the fact that I still trust him and have faith in him. I think it's still hard. It still hurts. And so this season, I think for a lot of people, it is confusing. It's challenging. And even if we have questions, even if there's still doubts, even if there's moments where it hurts us directly, I don't think that necessarily means that we still aren't operating as people of faith.
Okay.
And that there's just a tension there sometimes, where it's hard, it hurts, but Lord, it's my response. It's how I choose to respond. Yeah. Like, this hurts me, Lord, but yet I still worship you. Yeah, I still praise you. Though you slay me, I will still worship. I will still press in and I will still praise. And so I think right now we have a lot of power to choose. Yeah. To choose how we respond, not just react, but to respond.
That's so good, because I know that for a lot of us, the tendency is when present amidst pain, suffering, anxiety, stress, uncertainty of the future, and we respond, and maybe not even respond, when we're just aware that that's how we're feeling, the temptation is to actually interpret that as, oh no, maybe my faith isn't strong.
Right.
And then to like allow that cycle of guilt and shame and condemnation, like, oh man, if my faith was stronger, then I wouldn't have any problems with this. And yet it sounds like what you're saying is that, like, just the awareness of anxiety doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a person of faith. Correct. That your faith isn't placed in God.
Correct. Absolutely. Because I think we were just talking about this in our Sabbath school this morning, but I think our innate human tendency is to become anxious because we want to be in control of things. Absolutely. And I think right now we're realizing how much we are not in control of things. Yeah. And I think it's a human reaction to say, okay, what do I do? How do I fix this? Get really worried. And I mean, I even look at someone like Abraham, who is in the Hall of Faith, who, when we read Hebrews, we know that it was credited to him as righteousness. But when we look back, did he always look completely faithful in the moment? Right?
I've wondered about that before.
Right? Did he always seem completely faithful?
There's those times that he's lying about the thing. Yeah. It's just like, and yet God looked at him, and when he saw his faith, he honored it. Yes.
And Abraham, it's a process. I think our faith is also a process. And I think just because we have our human moments of doubt or concern, it doesn't mean that we're not going to ground back down into what we know is true. I just think it's really important for us as believers to make that gap period as short as possible as we can. And I'm not saying like, don't have your moment of weeping and tears or grief, whatever's going on, but do what you need to do to get back to that secure place of faith, to be rooted and grounded in God's love. And remember, like, he is still on the throne. This has not caught him by surprise, even though it has caught us by surprise. Like, God's plan is still going according to plan, and we're going to be okay. Yeah. So
I love that. That's so beautiful. Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Yay.
Hannah mentions this idea of the secret place, this private and super intimate place where she spends time communing with God. And I was curious, what exactly does this look like? What actually is happening behind closed doors? And is there perhaps something that we can learn from her?
So I've also been really impressed lately in my secret time to not just come with my petitions or my concerns, but with just love. Just love me, just be here with me. And he's shown me different ways that that love can manifest itself. Sometimes it's like I'm just listening to my praise music and a lyric that comes up just reminds me of something that I was struggling with the day before or still am struggling with in that moment. And all I can do is weep. But I feel like I just get these like beautiful pictures of him like, yeah, come weep on my chest, and just showing just that intimacy, just that love of like, yes, there's a time and a place for bringing our petitions and our intercessions to the Lord, of course. But the first and foremost thing that he wants from us is just our hearts, and just to show up with a heart that's like, I'm here. What do you want? What do you want to tell me? I love you. And just how much he delights in that. Like, he's like, hey, I'm just glad you're here. I just want to be with you. And so I think learning more and more how to flip the script a little bit. Yeah. To lead with love instead of like the checklist of like, okay, I've written down 5 things that I'm grateful for. I've prayed for these 10 people that I told them to. I've read 20 verses today. It doesn't have to be quite so formulaic as that. Like, if I enter in with love, his spirit will guide me and show me what to read, show me who to pray for. He knows my heart is full of gratitude. The gratitude just naturally flows and expresses itself when I'm in that position of love. So that's something that he's been showing me a lot lately, and something I've been meditating on, and just asking him to help me rewrite my narrative of how I approach my secret place time with him. That I want it to be rooted in his love more than anything.
That's awesome. I think that's a much more fun place to operate in too. I mean, I know what it's like to try and open the Bible. Like, what in the world does this mean?
Yeah.
And like to feel this sense of duty. Like, I need to study my Bible to be a good Christian, good Adventist, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I want to delight in the Lord. And I think there are times, like David, like he delighted in the Lord's love. It was his joy. And he's like, one thing I desire is that I seek your face. Like, to see your face is my heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do I approach the word like that?
Wow.
Do I approach this time like that? I don't think so all the time. Yeah. And I'm just convicted that the secret place time, or coming to the Lord just for that intimacy whenever you can or whenever you do it, it should be a joy, not a burden. It should be a delight and a song, not a like, okay, I got to check this off my list.
Totally.
And so I'm just encouraged lately to come at it from that perspective, and to know, like, again, I'm a work in progress. And the very fact that he's showing me this, it means he plans to work that out in me and get me to that place. So that's exciting.
Now, there's nothing wrong with having checklists. We all have checklists. But the challenge of faith is, what do we do with those lists? Do we give them up to God with the trust and confidence that all things are in his hands? Or do we clutch onto them, filled with dread and fear for tomorrow? Hannah mentioned the importance of exercising the power of choice, the power of choosing love and gratitude, the power of choosing thankfulness. Paul presents these choices to us too in the book of Philippians. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all that he has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. How do we put on this type of peace that God is offering here? Well, by giving our cares to him and thanking him for what he has already done.